question in email recently from a wonderful lady, and she asked me this: Heidi, because I am the way that I am about food, I shy away from functions that center around food, and most functions are primarily about food, especially church functions. How do you handle these type of situations? I appreciate so much this lady's authenticity, her honesty. And so what I want to do is pull apart her question, which actually has several things in it for us to talk about right now. First of all, she says, because I am the way I am about food. Now, what I would want to say to you or to this lady is, well, wait a minute. Is God doing a new thing in you right now? Has He been at work in you? Are you beginning to think differently about food? And you may think no, but if your heart is turned in the direction of wanting to be changed, that is a step towards that very thing that you want to become, towards the very thing that God is calling you to become. So to say that because I am the way that I am is kind of to say you're stuck when you're not. The fact that you're listening to this video proves that you're not stuck. The fact that you're at this website proves that you're not stuck. So begin to renew your mind about your perception about yourself. You're not stuck. You are learning new things about food, about how to relate to food. You're taking actions. Maybe they're baby steps. Maybe it's 3 forward, 2 back, 5 forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 12 back. But the fact is, you are doing things differently than you've done before. You're thinking differently than you have before, and you're on a path to continue that progress. So give God credit and give yourself credit. So that statement at the beginning where she said, because I am the way that I am about food, let's just put that to rest. You're not the way that you are, the way that you think you are. You're becoming something new. You're learning and growing. So the second thing about this is saying, I shy away from functions that center around food. Okay? What I see there is a potential fear of those functions. And so what I would ask you to do is evaluate, are you avoiding certain places to go, people to see, activities to enjoy because of fear? We know that Timothy tells us, Paul tells us in the books of Timothy, I don't remember the exact passage, says God has not given us a spirit of fear or of timidity, but of love, power, and self-discipline. So if we are in some way allowing fear to determine what we will do or what we won't do, then that's probably not the way that the Lord would have us go. He doesn't want fear to be that determiner of what activities we avoid going to or what things that we don't do. So I want to challenge you with that spirit of fear that might affect your decisions is probably not from God. Now, that's not to say that there aren't seasons of our lives where God might show us, you aren't strong enough yet to handle being in a certain situation. So I want you to exercise wisdom and discernment, child, and not attend that until you have some practice with saying no to your flesh and respecting your eating boundaries of 0 to 5 when you're with other people or in stressful situations, whatever it might be. That isn't fear-based, though. That is wisdom. That is discernment. So, but when it's fear-based, when you're actually afraid to go to an event or on a holiday or be with certain people because of how you think, you're convinced you will fail in adhering to your eating boundaries, that's something we want to address directly. And the bottom line is God would have us set aside our fear and walk into those settings, if our wisdom tells us we should, with a spirit of trust and rest in Him. Okay, so functions about food that seem to be about food. Here's another thing. If it's about food for others, and it has been about food for me, like a church potluck seems to be about food, okay, well, it doesn't have to be about food. Sure, it's called a potluck or a pancake, all-you-can-eat breakfast, or a spaghetti feed or whatever, and we know by definition that this is something that we've been looking forward to over the years as a place to enjoy the food. You can learn to value something else more than the food. You can learn, you can choose. I'm going to go to and it's best to do this in advance. I can go to this event with the food not being my focus, but instead people being my focus or gratitude being my focus. I'm going to go and follow up on some prayer requests. I'm going to go talk to some people who shared they had prayer needs. Or I'm going to go with a focus on encouragement. I'm going to choose a table to sit at and find out something new about every person sitting there. I'm going to make a point of encouraging people. That's going to be my focus. Fellowship, I'm going to make a point of having that be my focus. You can choose all kinds of things to be your focus other than food. And then when you eat, you can be mindful of what your real goal, what your real focus is in being there. And eating becomes incidental. It's kind of a cool way of choosing to take control of what would otherwise be something that other people are controlling for you. And as you allow other things to be the focus for you, you'll eat more slowly. And you won't have to worry about people saying, oh, is that all you're going to have to eat? And even if they do, it doesn't matter, okay? Because that's what God's calling you to eat. All right, so that is focusing on something else. One of the things that I have found that is so helpful to focus on in situations like that where I'm concerned about how I'm going to handle it in my eating, will I adhere to my boundaries or not, is gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful for me. In fact, if you were to ask me what are the 3 things that have been pivotal for me in my Thin Within journey, I would say practice of gratitude is at the top, probably number 1 or number 2. And gratitude, this is what it looks like for me, is I can choose ahead of time, gratitude's going to be my focus. And I'm going to walk into an environment, Lord, I am so thankful for the abundance of all of these different foods. There's so much food here. Thank you that we are not in need. Thank you that so many people here are able to contribute to this potluck. You've provided so much for our material needs. God, I'm so grateful for that. God, thank you for a church where we can gather together in freedom. Thank you for that freedom, God. Thank you for a pastor who preaches your word. Thank you for the people who serve, who have set the tables out for us, who have made sure that the food is hot and brought to the table. Thank you for all of these wonderful blessings. Thank you for the people that I get to sit with. Thank you for the friends, the family. There is so much to be grateful for in any setting like that. And I found that when I am grateful, when I'm fostering a grateful heart, when I'm nurturing a grateful heart, it is almost impossible for an attitude of pride or entitlement to live there at the same time. I can't do both at once. That my food, my stuff, my weight, my way, this, all about me can't coexist with a heart that I fostered of gratitude towards God. Lord, thank you for, doesn't really work very well with give me my, So that can be one of your focus, foci, whatever. That could be what you choose to focus on. So, summarize what we've done so far as we've talked about the way that I am about food. Renew your mind. God is doing a new thing in you. You don't have to avoid these situations that you may have felt like you were too weak to attend before. Don't let a spirit of fear own you. Truth journal about that. Functions where things are about food for most people don't have to be for you. You can choose what they will be about for you. They can be about the people, about gratitude, whatever. The third thing I wanted to say in answer to this lady's question is there are practical things you can actually do that can help you with the amount of food that you eat there. And this is more mechanics oriented, so I don't like to make this come to the forefront because I think those other things that I just talked about are more important, frankly. But I knew somebody at a Thin Within retreat. I met her at a Thin Within retreat, and she brings her own plate about that big to any buffet or party or whatever. She keeps it in her purse. And she pulls it out, and if she needs to at a buffet, she'll ask if she can use her plate instead of the plates they use. And the way that she explains it is she uses that plate. Her boundary is one of those plates one time through the line with no food on it touching any other food on it and no overlapping the edges. So she has a very specific quantity that she has in mind. She can't just pile it up as high as she wants to in order to eat more food. So that is her boundary. That's how much she lets that be her physical boundary. It's a literal physical boundary for the amount of food she's going to eat in those kinds of settings, whether it's a potluck, a party, a buffet, whatever. And she lost 100 pounds, so I figure she's pretty, she's a good, resource for getting ideas. So that was how she handled that. You too could do the same thing if you wanted to. Another thing I recommend is being accountable. Plan that you're going to, and tell somebody, I'd like to tell you after this event how I did. And my goal is this. Please ask me or I will report to you. And if I don't report to you, ask me how I did. And so we can go to an event like a barbecue after a baptism or something. And we can plan and tell our friend who we're going to be accountable to, this is what I hope to do at this particular event. Ask me how I did afterwards. And that can help us so often with being faithful to our 0 to 5 eating boundaries. Well, I hope that these tips help you so that you don't have to shy away any longer from those kinds of events where food seems to be in abundance and everybody seems to be focused on the food. You and your heart can be focused on your great and glorious God, on the people that He's given you in your life, and you can have some mechanical strategies, some tools, like a small plate that can help you maintain your 0 to 5 eating boundaries.